So, welcome to Jumbo IS and welcome to our lecture series called Daily News in Shorts. In this lecture series, we cover a particular day's current affairs in a very short span of time, around 20 minutes. The purpose of this lecture series is very, very simple. Look, current affairs form a very important portion of your UPSC syllabus or any other state civil services examinations syllabus. Okay, in fact, the most important portion of civil services examination. Therefore, to feel confident about current affairs, you need to cover it on a daily basis. But you can't spend your entire day covering current affairs. Okay, you can't spend your entire day reading the newspaper, right? So, for your help, for your facility, to facilitate you guys, we will be covering current affairs on a daily basis, but we would save you a lot of time for covering other aspects of your UPSC syllabus. All you have to do is watch this lecture of current affairs in 20-25 minutes and then spend another 20-25 minutes revising these current affairs. You will get to revise these current affairs from where? We'll be sharing a PDF file related to this lecture on our Telegram channel. Okay, so all you got to do is just go to our Telegram channel, download the PDF for this lecture, and then revise it. So around 45 to 50 minutes, you would be done for the day as far as current affairs are concerned. You're not done for the day as far as civil services examination is concerned, but for current affairs, you would be done. And then you can spend your entire day covering other aspects of UPSC syllabus. All right. So this lecture series is for your facility, but you would gain a lot out of this lecture series only and only if you make it a part of your daily routine. Make it a daily habit of yours, and you need not worry about current affairs for your civil services examination. All right. Okay, so let's begin the discussion. Let's start with current affairs from October 31st, 2024. And what were the important topics from this day's newspaper? Okay, here's a list of those topics. So, in total, we'll be focusing on 5 topics, starting with WHO's Global TB report. Okay, so WHO every year comes out with global tuberculosis report. So, this year's report, we'll be discussing this. Then some news item came regarding core sectors of India. So in total, there are 8 core industries which are called core. Okay, the word core is important because the entire country's economy is dependent on these industries. So what is the news related to these 8 core sectors? We'll cover this. Then recently, flash floods and torrential rainfall occurred in Spain, which led to the death of more than 40 people. Now, the weather phenomena related to this torrential rainfall is called Dana. Okay, so what is Dana? Why has it become so frequent? And what it tells you about climate change and climate change related disasters. Okay, so we'll talk about Dana, which has affected Spain, Mediterranean region. Then, look, you all know about Haryana elections and the controversy related to EVMs. Congress party actually raised some issues regarding EVMs. So recently, Election Commission came out with a response saying that these charges or these allegations against EVMs are bogus, and we have an explanation to prove that nothing fishy was going on during Haryana elections. Okay, so we'll talk about this issue. And in the end, we'll talk about Supreme Court's latest ruling on child marriage. Okay, so these are the 5 topics we'll be focusing our attention on. Let's start our discussion with topic number 1, which is WHO's Global TB report. Okay, now look, India saw a slight decline in number of tuberculosis cases in 2023. There was an increase in the number of cases that were reported. Okay, now the thing is, Global TB report 2023 came out. Now Global TB report is released by WHO, and it has said that the number of cases declined in India in 2024 as compared to 2023, but still those cases are way high. Okay, plus Global TB report said that India has vowed or India has promised to eliminate TB by 2025. Now, yes, number of TB cases are declining in India, but India is very far away from achieving its target in 2025. In fact, globally also, number of people infected with TB, tuberculosis, has risen. Okay. In fact, the report says that 82 lakh people were newly diagnosed with TB in 2023, the highest number since WHO began monitoring TB in 1995. So remember this fact also. WHO started monitoring TB on a global basis since 1995, and 2023 was the year with highest number of TB cases. In fact, it has surpassed COVID-19 infections also. Okay, number of infections in 1 year. So it has become a deadly killer. Now, you need to be aware of TB, tuberculosis, what is tuberculosis, and you also need to be aware of what is India's situation regarding TB, okay, and what has government of India done to solve that problem. So first, let's talk about tuberculosis. So basically, TB, tuberculosis, is an infection. Basically, it's a bacterial infection, so it is caused by bacteria, okay, and the name of the bacteria causing this infection is called Mycobacterium tuberculosis. Pretty simple to remember, right? Now, this disease or this bacteria actually infects or affects your respiratory tract. So basically, TB is a respiratory infection, right? Now, how does TB spread? So it's an airborne infection. Whenever you are close to people infected with TB and they cough or sneeze, well, the droplets of their cough or sneeze carries bacteria, this bacteria, which if gets in contact with you, then you also there are high chances that you are also infected with TB. That is why it is said that you shouldn't come in close contact with people who are infected with TB. TB spreads like anything. Okay, the good news is that TB is treatable, but the treatment is very long. There is a standard 6-month course which actually involves 4 antibiotics or 4 antimicrobial drugs. So you are under treatment for 6 months. It is a long treatment, but that is the case. Now, this picture contains some highlights of the global TB report. Okay, so India's cases or India's total burden also, so share among global cases. So in 2023, 27% of the global TB cases were in India. In fact, it is said India has the highest burden of TB globally. Okay, 27% TB cases are in India. Next is Indonesia. So Indonesia and India are top two countries where TB cases are the highest. Okay, now what has this report said about India? Okay, now India has definitely seen some improvement as per this report. India has seen a decline of 18% in TB cases between 2015 and 2023, but India's target was 50% decline if India wants to achieve it by 2025. Okay, TB deaths declined by 24%, but India's target was 75% by 2025. In fact, India had set the goal of eliminating TB by 2025. Initially, India said that we will completely eliminate TB by 2030. In fact, sustainable development goals also indicate in that direction that globally TB should be eliminated by 2030. But India said that we would achieve this target 5 years in advance. That is why India said that we will eliminate TB by 2025. WHO says that the world needs to eliminate TB by 2030, but India says we'll do it by 2025. But the latest report by WHO says that India is very, very far from this target. Now, India has the highest TB burden in the world. 26 to 27% of global TB cases are in India. 27% of globally multi-drug resistant TB is also in India. Okay, 29% of deaths due to TB also happen in India. All right, so this is India's global TB burden, and it's quite high. The next rank is held by Indonesia. So both India and Indonesia need to worry about this situation. All right. Now, here was this term mentioned called multi-drug resistant TB. So, what is multi-drug resistant TB? Okay, drug resistant TB. So, the thing is, what happens is that the bacteria is quite sensitive to antibiotics. Okay, so whenever you're infected with TB, you are given antibiotics or antimicrobials. But sometimes some TB bacteria become resistant to the initial antibiotics. Okay, so whenever you are infected with TB, you are given isoniazid and rifampicin. These are the two antibiotics. But some bacteria become resistant to it. So next time when you get TB, these antibiotics don't work. Okay, so whenever you're infected with TB and these antibiotics don't work, then we say that you have multi-drug resistant TB. Okay, because your TB bacteria has become resistant to these medicines. Okay, multi-drug resistance TB is also treatable and curable, but you need a stronger antibiotic to cure that, and that stronger antibiotic is beta-quinine. Okay, but sometimes multi-drug resistance TB bacteria becomes extensively drug resistant. This is known as extreme drug resistance or extensive drug resistant TB. This is very serious and it is non treatable. Okay. Yes, sometimes patients are given treatment and they get better, but it is a very dangerous form of multi drug resistance TB. Almost no antibiotics work on it. Okay. So, this is multi drug resistance TB, and India has 27% of MDR TB cases. So, India is at a very serious disadvantage when it comes to TB. It is a serious problem in India. All right, that's all you need to know about TB and global TB report. Now let's shift our focus to 8 core sectors of India. So what was in the news basically? Then we'll talk about core sectors. Okay, India's core sector output grew by 2% year on year in September. So September's data has been out, and in September India's core sector grew by 2%. Though the previous month in August, India's core sector actually contracted. So September's growth rate was 2%, August growth rate was minus 1.6%. So it is good news as far as comparison with August is concerned. But basically, it's not that good of a news also, because core sectors grew by only 2%. And there are 8 core sectors. One of them is cement. Okay, so it is because of the cement sector that the overall core sector grew. The other sectors were not that good. Okay, cement sector has shown good amount of growth, and that is why the overall cumulative effect of 8 core sectors improved in September. Okay, now if this thing what we just discussed is difficult for you to understand, well, it's understandable. Okay, I'll tell you why. Because you don't know what core sectors are. So let's talk about core sectors first. Okay, so basically, there are 8 industries in India which are called core industries. These are coal, crude oil, natural gas, refinery products, fertilizers, steel, cement, electricity. So these are the 8 core industries in India. You have to remember each and every one of them. You have to cram it. Come what may, you need to remember this forever. The 8 key industries. Now, why are they called core? Because the entire country's economy depends on these core industries. Okay, all industries in India depend on power, electricity, right? And 60 to 70% of electricity in India is produced from coal. Okay, so the entire industry in India is somehow dependent on coal. That is why coal is core. Similarly, entire transport sector is dependent on crude oil, and all the plastics and all the industries are dependent on crude oil. Many industries, including fertilizer industry, is dependent on natural gas, refinery products. Transport sector is dependent on petrol refinery products, petrol, diesel, and all. Then entire agriculture sector is dependent on fertilizer. The entire infrastructure, roads, bridges, buildings are dependent on steel, cement, and everything is dependent on electricity. So these 8 industries form the foundation of India's economy. Without these 8 industries, India's economy would go nowhere. That is why they are called core. Okay. Now, the core sector output is significant. In fact, the combined weight of all these core industries in index of industrial production is 40.27. Okay, index of industrial production is an index which measures the entire country's industrial performance. So within that index of industrial production, 8 core industries form 40%. Okay, so 40.2% of weightage in IIP is given to these core sectors. That much is the significance of these sectors. Okay, they are a key indicator of country's overall health and economic performance. I just mentioned that. Okay, now to measure the performance of these core industries, we have index of 8 core industry called ICI. Now this ICI is published and released and compiled by Office of Economic Advisor, which is under DPIIT, under Ministry of Commerce and Industry. So remember, Index of 8 core industry is prepared by Office of Economic Advisor. Now, these 8 core industries have a combined weightage of 40.27% in IIP, Index of Industrial Production. But in this index of core industry, which sector has highest weight? So remember, petroleum refinery has the highest weight, and the lowest weightage is given to fertilizers. Just remember this fact. You need not remember the weights of all these 8 industries. Just remember the highest weightage is given to petroleum refinery and the lowest weightage is given to fertilizer. Now, this index, as you all know, all indices are calculated on a base year. So the base year of this index is 2011-12. In fact, the base year for Index of Industrial Production is also 11-12. Okay. Plus, also remember that the data for September would be released on 31st October. The data for October would be released on 31st November. Okay, and the data for November would be released on 31st December. So the data comes with a 1 month lag after 1 month. Okay, let's gather some information about this IIP also, Index of Industrial Production. So it is a composite index that shows short-term changes in the production volume of basket of industrial products compared to chosen base period, and that base year is 2011. So IIP actually is an index for all industries. ICI is an index for only 8 core industries. Now remember, IIP is released by NSO, not Office of Economic Advisor, National Statistical Office, which is under Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. Okay, that's it. That's all you need to know. Okay, now let's shift to Dana. So why is Dana in news? Millions have been affected in southern and eastern Spain due to torrential rain, which began on October 28th and is still going on. Many cities and villages have been submerged because this rainfall was very much. I mean, the quantum of water that poured on the streets of Spain was very high. It was much like a cloud burst. Okay. Now, the reason for this intense rain is a weather phenomena known as gota fria. Gota fria is Spanish for cold drop. Okay, in English it is called cold drop. In Spanish it is called gota fria. And in Spanish it is sometimes also called Dana. Dana means depression aislada en nivel alto, which means isolated depression at high altitudes. Okay, this is a short form of a Spanish phrase. So this weather phenomena is called gota fria or Dana in Spanish, cold drop or isolated depression at high altitudes in English. Okay. Now, what is this Dana? Listen to me carefully. Okay. Now look, winds blow across our planet. Now the winds that blow across our planet, some winds blow closer to the ground. Those are known as normal winds. But some winds blow high above the ground, okay, in the upper layers of troposphere. Troposphere is an atmospheric layer. Okay, all the weather phenomena happen in this troposphere. So there are some winds that blow closer to the ground, which we feel, and there are some winds that blow at very high altitudes, upper layers of troposphere, upper layers of atmosphere. Okay, these are known as jet streams, and they blow across the globe. So the jet stream blowing in this area is known as polar jet stream. Then the jet stream blowing over Arabia and India also sometimes is called subtropical jet stream. Then similarly in the southern hemisphere we have subtropical jet stream, polar jet stream. Now this polar jet stream during these months of September, October blow closer to the Mediterranean region. Okay, this polar jet stream. And sometimes this polar jet stream, which consists of extremely cold air, gets trapped in the Mediterranean region. So what happens is this extremely cold air, okay, lying at the top of Mediterranean region, it lies at the top of the surface winds. Okay, as you know, jet streams blow at very high altitude. Okay, Below jet streams are surface winds. So what happens is that this cold jet stream air above the Mediterranean region is sitting at the top of surface winds. Now these surface winds are warm. That is why they carry a lot of moisture. But this cold air is dry and it is sitting at the top of this warm surface winds. Sometimes, because of high density, this cold air packet descends downwards. It drops on the surface. And when it drops on the surface of Mediterranean region very quickly, these surface winds rise very quickly. Since they are warm, they carry a lot of moisture from the Mediterranean region. So this rapid rise of warm surface winds to the top, okay, causes dana. What happens is these warm surface winds, as soon as they reach the top, they form clouds and they drop their moisture, okay, in the form of rainfall. And this rainfall is very hard. I mean, hard is a wrong word to choose in this situation, but it's quite torrential. And this causes atmospheric instability, and this causes devastation, disaster like situation. Okay, so these clouds that rise quickly because of the drop of cold air, that is why it is known as cold drop. Okay, this drop of cold air makes these surface winds rise and they dump heavy rain, okay, in this region. Now you understand why is it called cold drop. Okay, it's called cold drop because cold jet stream air drops. It is also known as isolated depression at high altitudes. So this depression of cold air drops. Okay, this is the situation. So the cause behind dana is polar jet stream. All right, now is this phenomena quite common? Now this is a regular occurrence for Spain and Italy are used to seeing this phenomena of cold drop. But of late, because of global warming, the intensity of these cold drops and the frequency of these cold drops have increased. The reason for rising intensity is that because of global warming, the surface winds are unusually warm, and winds have a higher capacity to hold moisture. So these surface warm winds have more moisture because of global warming, rising temperatures, and that is why their intensity has increased, and that is why they give heavy downpour. So global warming is the reason behind these disasters also. Okay, global warming is causing widespread devastation. Various disasters have become a common occurrence these days. All right, that's about it. Now let's shift our focus to fourth news item, which is electronic voting machine issue. So what happened? Recently, Election Commission rejected Congress party's allegations of irregularities in counting of votes in the recent Haryana Assembly poll. So Congress party actually raised some issue with respect to EVMs. Okay, Congress party said that at polling booths where EVMs had 99% battery, they lost, and at polling booths where EVMs had 60 to 70% battery, they won. So Congress party says that EVMs which had 99% battery were tampered with. That is why they lost. Because it is impossible for EVMs to have 99% battery. Because some battery would have been lost because of usage, right? So they say that these EVMs were tampered with. That is why they had 99% battery and they lost from those polling booths. But Election Commission has categorically denied it and they have presented proof also. Now we need not get into the proof. Okay, all we need to know is for our exam. Okay, if you have interest in this issue, well, you can read about it, but we are going to focus mostly on our exam. So as far as our exams are concerned, we need to be only familiar with EVM batteries. Okay, so what is this EVM battery? So basically the control unit of EVM and VVPAT, which is used to verify votes, they contain batteries which are non-rechargeable. Okay, these are alkaline cells. Primary cells, these are non-rechargeable. Okay, so you cannot recharge them. Like you have phone batteries which can be recharged, they cannot be recharged. Okay, the system is designed to hold a battery level of 5.5 to 8.2 volts. Now each EVM has 5 cells of these batteries, plus the VVPAT has 30 cells. So each EVM has a life of 5 years. So you can use a particular EVM for 5 years. That's how long this battery lasts. That's about it. That's all you need to know. Okay. The reason why we do not use rechargeable batteries is because Election Commission has said that these batteries are durable. These are reliable also. These batteries do not get affected by high temperatures. Sometimes the temperatures at polling booths during summer months increase. So these batteries do not get affected because of that. Okay, so they are durable, reliable, and we do not need to recharge EVMs. Okay, EVMs are used once every election, so we need not recharge them. We can replace the battery if they get discharged. So that is why we use non-rechargeable batteries. All right. Okay. And last news item is Supreme Court's ruling on child marriage. So what has Supreme Court said? In a recent judgment, there was a case going on in Supreme Court. It was called Society for Enlightenment and Voluntary Action versus Union of India. Now, the Supreme Court has said that child marriage is criminalized in India. Okay? So, if a person is found marrying a minor, okay, then that person is committing a criminal offense. And an FIR can be registered against the husband if he's not a minor, his entire family. In fact, an FIR is also registered against the wives who is underage, entire family. So if it is found that the girl or the husband were minors, then their families also get prosecuted. Criminal action is taken against them also, right? Now, what happens is that if a bride who's a minor has been found to be a minor and criminal case is registered against her family as well as the groom's family, then that woman has nowhere to go because her parents are also criminalized. Her family members are also criminalized, right? FIR is registered against all of them. She has nowhere to go. She's left alone. That is why many of these women do not report this case or do not actually register this case. So Supreme Court has said because of that, many females are not coming forward because they are scared that they would have nowhere to go because they are minors and their family would also get prosecuted. They're scared of their family, plus they don't want their families to get hurt, right? So the Supreme Court has said that to stop this evil of child marriage, we need to shift our focus from penalizing criminal action to actually addressing the needs of victims. Because where would these victims go if their families are penalized? Okay, so we need to shift our focus from putting her family members to jail to basically her welfare. How can she move on with her life? How can she be skilled so that she has somewhere to go? Okay, or she becomes an independent woman. So we need to shift this focus. Now, what are the current provisions regarding child marriage in India? Okay, so we have a law called Prohibition of Child Marriage Act, which says that a marriage would be considered child marriage if either the husband is less than 21 years of age or the wife is under 18. Okay, and if it is found that during the time of marriage the wife or the husband were underage, then they can opt to annul it. Okay, and their marriage would stand void. Okay, they can annul it. But if no one complains about it, then their marriage can go on. All right, so let's suppose after 30 years of marriage a woman says that I happen to, or I married when I was 15 years old or 16 years old, then she can annul that marriage also. Okay, but if she doesn't say anything, well, then that marriage can continue. But two states, Karnataka and Haryana, they have said that even if the bride doesn't say anything, then also that marriage stands annulled. Now remember, there is a difference between, and this is very important, there is a difference between annulment and divorce. So annulment is cancellation of marriage as if that marriage never happened. Divorce is that marriage happened, but now the bride and groom no longer want to stay together. So divorce actually acknowledges that marriage happened. Annulment says that that marriage never happened. Okay, so this is what can be done. Now, it's not just this law, PCMA, that makes that criminalizes child marriage. In fact, there are other laws also. So there is POXO. If a husband is found to have has sexual intercourse with his wife, and that wife happens to be a minor, then that husband can also be prosecuted under POXO, protection of children from sexual offenses. Okay, even if they are married together but the wife is minor, that husband can be prosecuted under POXO. And this sexual intercourse is also penalized under Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita. So with PCMA, Prohibition of Child Marriage Act, uh, POXO, and Bharatiya Nyaya Samhita, when they are taken together, then the entire family of groom and the bride, they get criminalized or they get penalized. And in such situations, the bride has nowhere to go. All right. That is why sometimes these brides do not come forward. So that is why Supreme Court has said that we need to take care of this. We need to focus more on the welfare of these brides, minors. Okay. Now, these are some of the statistics related to child marriage in India. Though child marriage incidence has dropped, but still there are 23.3% women in 2021 who married when they were minors. In fact, prohibiting or eliminating child marriage is one of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal by 2030. In fact, these 8 goals are dependent on prohibition of child marriage. Okay, so remember this also. All right. And with that, we conclude today's session. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. And I'm sure it has added value to your preparation, but it would add more value if you spend 20 to 25 minutes more and revise these current affairs from our PDF file. Okay? All right. On that note, I'll sign off with the promise that I'll see you next time with next day's current affairs. Thank you.